Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Chris here, founder of Rooted Music Coaching. And at Rooted, our goal is to help you learn to play the music you love by coaching you on the why and not just the what. Now, we hope you really enjoyed the tutorial that's coming up here in just a second today. And as you watch it, we'd love for you to go ahead and subscribe to our channel where you'll see more tutorials just like this for piano, guitar, bass, you name it. We have the tutorial for you. So we hope you really enjoy the tutorial today. Let's go ahead and get to it.
Hey everyone, this is JT with Rooted Music, here with you today for a piano tutorial over the hymn Amazing Grace that was written by John Newton. And so today we're going to be looking at the hymn arrangement of Amazing Grace, and you as a piano player or as somebody who's on a worship team most likely knows the song Amazing Grace. Most likely you've played the song Amazing Grace before, but today we're going to be breaking down the version that you would find if you opened up a hymnal. And what we've done here is we've taken all of the harmonies and all of the chords out of the hymnal and put it into a chord chart or a number chart. Depending on what you're reading, we have put that here for you today so we can break it down and play this song as it was originally written centuries ago. So let's go ahead and look at a few pieces of key information that we need to know before we dive headfirst into this song. And the first one here is that we are in the key of C major. And the key of C major for the song Amazing Grace fits really well with a female vocalist. So this tutorial and this video is going to be focused on the key that would suit a female lead vocalist. If you want to learn how to play Amazing Grace in the hymn style in a key that suits a male voice, we have a video that is in the key of G, and that is for the male voice. That key lends itself to a male voice. So today we're going to be looking at the key of C major, and the key of C major is probably the friendliest key that a piano player can play in because it is all white keys. We have no sharps and we have no flats. So let's go ahead and work on our scales. So we start with C. The next note is D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So that's our scale, and we see that here down below our key here. And so these notes are the only notes that we are allowed to play during this song. So this is a nice way for us to know which keys are available to us and which ones we're not allowed to play. So I'm going to play the scale one more time. Good, and we're going to cover a lot of the basics of the key of C really quickly and the chords in the key of C, but we're not going to be able to go super in depth on that today. But we at Rooted do have a informational video on the key of C major that you can watch. It's in our piano library, and it's about a 30-minute video that just discusses more in depth all of the details about the key of C, why the key of C has no sharps or flats, how to build all the chords in the key of C, and so on. We highly encourage you check that out if you're looking for more information on the key of C than what is going to be provided today in this video. But before we really dive into the chords, let's go ahead because we at Rooted want you guys as musicians to be able to read chord charts in letter notation and Nashville number notation. And today I'm going to be looking at this chart in Nashville numbers. So let's go ahead and assign our Nashville numbers to our scale. So when we're assigning our numbers, simply what we're doing is instead of saying the letter names of the chords, we're instead more focused on the relationship between the notes and the pitches of the scale, and we assign them numbers instead of letters. So C is going to be 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then instead of saying 8 at the top, because C was already 1 at the bottom, we call C at the top 1 again. So here's that scale in Nashville numbers one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Awesome. So now that we know our scale in both letter notation and Nashville numbers, let's go ahead and look through verse 1 of Amazing Grace and look for all of the chords that you and I are going to need to know how to play for this song. That way, when we dive into the song, we're not caught off guard or we're not prepared and we have a chord that we don't really know how to play. We're going to look at all the chords we need to know on the front end so we don't run into that problem. So here we have our 1 chord, which is C. We have a 5-7, which is going to be our G7 chord. We're going to talk about that. We probably aren't used to playing a whole lot of dominant 7 chords in our more modern worship music, but we'll talk about this. We have a 6 chord, which is A minor, a 4 chord, which is F, and then we have a 1/3 here. That is a C over E, and that looks to be it. So we have 5 unique chords that we're going to have to learn in order to play this song. So let's go ahead and build those chords. And for this video, we're going to be playing triads, meaning chords of 3 notes, unless otherwise noted. Specifically our 5/7 chord, we're going to add another note there. And so let's go ahead and build our chords in scale order. So we're going to start with C, or our 1 chord. So every chord, because we're playing triads, has a root, a third, and a fifth. Those are the 3 notes. So in the C chord, C is going to be my root, E is my third, and G is the fifth. And then in the playthrough at the end of this video, and as I'm teaching the rest of this video, I typically add an octave of the root in my left hand just to kind of fill out the sound and provide more of the bass frequencies. But if that's a little too challenging for you, you can go ahead and just play a single root note in your left hand. And even if that's too challenging still, just go ahead and play the triad in your right hand, root, third, fifth. And then when you get more comfortable, you can add a root note in your left hand, or you can add the octave in your left hand. All right, so that is our 1 chord, or C. Let's go up. And like I said, we're progressing through these chords in scale order. So let's go to our C over E chord. And for C over E, anytime we see a number over number or slash chord, the first number tells me what I'm playing in my right hand, and the second number tells me what I'm playing in my left hand. So I have a 1 chord, or C, in my right hand, which we just built. So we have root, third, fifth, C, E, G. But the second number says 3 instead of 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to move my left hand up to our 3, which is E. So that's why we have C. So that's why we call it 1/3, because we have a C chord in my right hand over 3 in the bass, or C over E. Good. So here's 1/3. Good. Now let's build our 4 chord, which is going to be our F major. So we start with F is the root, A is the third, C is the fifth. There's F. So now let's go to our G7, or a 5/7. So we have G, B, D, and then we add our 7th, which is F. And this chord has a very unique sound. This chord, this 7th here, really wants to resolve to our 1 chord. And so the 5/7, or the dominant 7 chord, is used harmonically as a means to really build some tension and really lead us to the resolution going to our 1 chord. Typically 5/7 chords lead us to 1 chords. However, we do have one leading to our A minor, or 6 chord, and we have one to our 1/3 here as well. But generally speaking, it's safe to assume that anytime we see a 5/7 chord, or in this key a G7 chord, this is typically going to want to resolve to our 1 or to C of some kind. So when we see that, think you've got a C chord of some fashion coming, except here we call this a deceptive cadence, where we think we're going to C here, but we really go to that A minor instead. Good. Okay, so we've built our 5/7 chord, so G, B, D, F, and we call this the 7th of the chord because G to F is a 7th, and that's where we get the 5/7 or G7 chord from. Good. And then let's finish with our A minor, which is our 6th chord. So we have A is the root, C is the third, and E is the fifth. Awesome. So there it is. So those are the 5 chords that we need to know. And one thing we're going to do in this video, and you're going to see it in the playthrough, is that I'm playing a lot of inversions of some of these chords in the song, because it just keeps me really in this kind of middle C, a little bit below middle C range here, which I feel like is best for solo piano with a singer over the top, because a lot of these notes aren't competing with the vocal range, which is a little higher here, and I think it just sounds stronger on its own played a little bit on the lower side of the piano. So what we're going to do now is go through our 5 chords again, but we're going to invert them, meaning we're playing the same notes that we just played, but we're playing them in a different order on the piano, and that's going to help us so we don't have to move our hands around as much as well. So we'll walk through it. So here was our C chord, or our 1 chord, and what we're going to do to make this a little more playable in the range that we want to is we're going to take our 5th, the G, and move it down an octave here. So we're playing our 1 chord like this. So we still have root, 3rd, 5th, but it's just in a different order of ascending pitch. So there we go. So this is going to be our 1 chord. And then our 1/3 is the same. We've just now moved my left hand from C to E. So there's 1/3. Our 4 chord, or F, is going to stay the same. Root, 3rd, 5th. G7 is going to be a little different. We're going to keep G, B, D where they are. And we're going to move our 7th, our F, down an octave, down here, to kind of keep us in that range that we want to keep our hands in. And then we have our A minor, A, C, and E in the same spot. So one more time, we're going to go through this really quick. So 1 or C, 1/3 or C over E, F or our 4 chord. Here's our 5/7 or G7, and then A minor or our 6 right there. And what's nice again is my right hand's not really moving much. I'm not hopping from root note to root note. I can keep my hand generally in the same location, which makes it a little bit easier as we're learning the song. Good. So now that we know our chords, we know our key, we know everything we need to know about the harmony of the song, let's look at our time signature, and this is going to be the biggest difference between the hymn arrangement of Amazing Grace and the more modern arrangements. For example, the My Chains Are Gone version of Amazing Grace, which I'm sure you know, is actually written in 4/4 time, and here we have 3/4. So in the My Chains Are Gone version, we have 4 beats in a measure, so we'd be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, but in this version we have 3 beats in a measure because the first number of our time signature always tells us how many beats are in a measure. So here we're counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. And then our second number here tells us what type of note is considered 1 beat. So we have a 4 here, which means a quarter note is considered 1 beat. So every measure is going to have equivalent to 3 quarter notes worth of time. And a measure, if you don't know, is simply just a way that we break a song down into smaller pieces, kind of like how a book is broken up into chapters. That's how you can think of a measure when it comes to the song, and it just helps us keep track of where we are in the song. Good. And then for our tempo, if you've ever looked inside a hymnal, you'll look at the songs, and typically you won't see tempo markings telling you how fast or at what BPM to play the song, like a lot of modern worship songs have that designated. So what I did is I went through and played the song a couple times at different speeds to see what would be a good tempo for the song. And if you know Amazing Grace, this song is a pretty versatile song. It can be played in more celebratory settings or church services, and so 90 BPM is certainly a little more upbeat, a faster version of this song, and that's about the fastest we would encourage you to play it. But Amazing Grace is also a song that can be used to comfort people, and it can also be played in more of a solemn setting. And so 60 beats per minute is pretty good on the slower end. I certainly wouldn't play it slower than 60 or faster than 90, but it's up to you where in this spectrum you'd like to play. In the playthrough at the end of this video, I'm playing right in the middle at 76 beats per minute. Good. So now we know all the information we need to know. So let's go ahead and look at verse 1. And one thing that's really cool about this song and a lot of traditional hymns is that there's a lot of words. Like Amazing Grace has 5 verses in this song, but once we know verse 1, this song plays the same way for the rest of the verses. So if you know verse 1, you can play the rest of the song, which is really cool. So in reality, we only have to learn verse 1 in order to play this song. So each verse in Amazing Grace contains 16 measures, and those 16 measures are broken up into 4 lines of 4 measures each. So what we're going to do is just take this line by line, work on 4 measure pieces at a time, and then we'll put it all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through this first line and say the lyrics as I play it, and then we'll break it down. So here it is. 1, 2. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Awesome. So like I said, we have 4 measures in this first line here. And one thing that Amazing Grace has, and a lot of hymns have, is a pickup note. So we actually have a pickup note going into our first full measure. So if you don't know what a pickup note is simply an extra beat or a couple extra beats tacked on to the beginning of a song that are used as a way to kind of transition into the start of the song. And typically the pickup note is required based on the way the words were written and the syllable structure of the song. And so we have on Amazing Grace, the of amazing is our pickup note. So when I'm counting this out and thinking through it, I'm going to have 1 extra beat because beat 1 of our 4 measures on this line is actually on maze. So we have our 1 chord or C on and then again we play our 1 chord or C on maze. And the reason we play 2 beats in a row of our 1 chord or C is because if we didn't play a chord here but we're singing, we have a higher probability of singing the wrong note and then throwing our song into the key that we don't want it to be in. And so by playing maze, I now have a harmonic support underneath my vocal line, which helps me know which key I'm in. So we have our 1 chord here. We have another 1 chord or C on amazing. We're going to hold this out for a full measure. So this gets 3 beats. And then we didn't want to overload or crowd this chord chart or number chart here. So we only listed the chord changes. But I also do play every downbeat or every beat 1 of every measure. So grace also is the start of our second measure. So I also play a 1 or C chord there, even though it is not written down here in the chart. And then beat 3 of our second full measure is where we have our 5-7 or G7 chord. And this is a transitional chord, which is only for 1 beat. So we're moving from C to A minor, and we have a transition chord of this 5-7 or G7 for 1 beat on how. Then measure 3 of this line starts on sweet, and we play our A minor or 6 chord for 2 beats. We have another transition chord here, our 4 chord or F, and we play that for 1 beat. And then we finish this line here with a full measure of our C chord or 1. So now what I'm going to do is go through this whole line here, because that was a lot of chord changes, and I'm going to count it out so you can see how it sounds if we're counting it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there we go. So that was our first 4 measures of the song with our pickup note there. Good. And this line has the most chord changes. The rest of these don't have as many. So this first line, I think it's probably the toughest line in the whole song. So let's move on to our second line of the verse now. What I'm going to do is do the same thing as before. I'm going to play through the second line here and say the lyrics, and then we'll look at it a little more in depth. So 1, 2, that saved a wretch like me. Good. So there we go. So we have our 1 chord or C lined up with the word saved, and we play that for a full measure. And then we, while we don't have a chord change here, again, I am playing a C over the word wretch because this is beat 1 of our second measure of the line. Here, then we have another transition chord, our 5-7 or G7 for 1 beat on the word like. So we're playing this one pretty quick. And then we go to our 1/3 or C over E on me for almost 2 full measures. So I'm going to play the same thing, but now I'm going to count it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Good. And so at the end of that last measure of our second line, I moved back to our 1 chord or C because like we had a pickup note here to start our verse, the 1 chord on the word I is technically our last beat of this second line here. This is another pickup note leading us into this next line. So what I'm going to do now is play our third line with the lyrics, show you how it works, and then we'll talk through it. So 1, 2, I once was lost, but now am found. Good, so that was our third line here. Again, we have our beat 3 of our last measure, and the second line is our pickup note. And then beat 1 of our third line is on once. It's our 1 chord or our C. We play that for a full measure. Then we have a C over E or 1/3 chord on the word lost. We play that for a full measure or 3 beats. Then we go to our F or a 4 chord on the word now for a full measure or 3 beats. And then we have our 1 chord or C chord on the word found, and we play that for 2 beats. So here I'm going to play this line now, but count it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, I play this 1/3 or a C over E chord on beat 3 because just like we have a pickup note here and a pickup note here, the word was here is our pickup note going into the last line. So this is beat 3 of our last measure on this line. So we have that 1/3 chord right there for 1 beat. And then that transitions us into this last line, which I'm going to play now with the lyrics, and then we'll talk it through. So 1, 2, was blind, but now I see. And there we go. So we have our 1/3 here. Like I said, it's our pickup note. Then we have our A minor or 6 chord on the word blind for a full measure. Then we have our 1 chord or C on the word now. We hold that for 2 beats. We have our 5/7 or G7 chord over the word I, and this is another transition chord for just 1 beat, leading us into 2 measures of our 1 chord or C at the end of the song over the word C. So now I'm going to count this. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there we go. We've now gotten through the whole verse. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play verse 1, say the lyrics, and I'll do the whole thing. So here it is. 1, 2. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. And there we go. That was our whole verse, all 16 measures, all in a row right there. And we again encourage you to be able to play a chord chart or a number chart based upon the lyrics and how the chord changes line up with the lyrics. But sometimes the chord chart or number chart can't tell us all of the details that we need to know. And so being able to count through it is a huge benefit to you as a musician as well. Awesome. So we've gone through verse 1 and everything looks good here. Let's go ahead and look quickly at how do we transition from verse 1 to verse 2. And so if you remember, we have our pickup note here on well, all of the verses are going to have pickup notes. So when we get to verse 2, the word twas is going to be our pickup note. So we can think of the final beat of verse 1 is where we start saying the lyrics of verse 2, which is twas. So there's a little bit of overlap, and that's how we transition from verse to verse. So to show you this, I'm going to play the last line of verse 1 and the first line of verse 2 and say the lyrics, and then we'll count through it later, but we'll say the lyrics and walk through how we transition. So 1, 2, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my Cool, and there we go. So it's a pretty seamless transition, just moving from this last line here, and as long as we remember that the word "twas" comes in on the very last beat, because this is our pickup note, that's going to make this a very smooth transition. So now what I'm going to do is play this last line of verse 1 and this first line of verse 2, but instead of saying the lyrics, I'm going to count it to show you how we can count our way through this transition. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 'Twas 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Good, and there we go. So we've transitioned from verse 1 to verse 2 through the lyrics or by counting it as well. And this transition works for all of the verses. So here in the chart, we have verse 3 on the next page, we have verse 4 on the next page, and verse 5 at the bottom, and all of these verses transition the exact same way. So if you know how to play verse 1 and transition from verse 1 to verse 2, you know how to play, in effect, the whole song, which is really cool. So now that we're kind of coming to the point where we're wrapping up this video, again, what I would encourage you to do, especially with the dominant 7, if that's a new chord for you or it's just something that you're still trying to figure out, take some time, practice the chords individually, and then once you feel confident with that, then go ahead and start playing the song. One thing that's really cool is that we've literally taken the chords and everything about the hymn from the hymnal and put it on a chord chart here, but we at Rooted also have the sheet music available to you as well. So if you want to, in the lower right hand corner alongside with the letter chart and number chart, we have the sheet music available to you, that if you wanted to practice playing through the sheet music, you are more than welcome to do that. Also, all of the chord changes listed in our chord or number charts are going to be listed above the sheet music here to kind of help you figure out where you are in the music as well. And the big difference between the chord charts and the sheet music is that the sheet music has a lot of moving lines and little things like that in some of the parts, specifically the left hand. And this is different because hymnals were written and designed for people to sing out of them. And so a lot of these lines here represent vocal lines. So like the top one here would be soprano, the lower one in the treble clef is our alto part. The top notes in the bass clef is typically the tenor part, and then the lower notes in the bass clef is the bass part. So these were arranged for people to sing based on their voice parts. So you're going to see some moving notes like here in the melody, but then we're going to have some moving notes in some of these lower lines here that just really add a little more intrigue and just a little more detail into the song. And what we did is, because in the hymnal version in sheet music, your hands are moving around a lot, whereas in worship music, you're typically only using your left hand for root notes or the occasional root and fifth. We decided to go ahead and give you both options. So again, that's why we took the harmonies out of the hymnal, put it into a chord chart so you can play it in the more comfortable way of playing more modern worship piano. But again, we are providing the sheet music here if you want the practice on reading sheet music or being able to play this in the same style that it was written for the hymnal. We have this available to you as well. So that pretty much wraps up our video today, guys. Again, if you have any comments, questions, or just need help in any way, we have a comment box down below this video. We'd love for you to leave a comment. Tell us how great you're doing, and we would love to hear from you on that. And again, we are so excited that you are learning the hymn Amazing Grace. This is one of the foundational songs in all of worship music, and this song is such a blessing, and it's so wonderful to sing of God's amazing grace in our lives, and we hope that you can encourage and bless others with this song as well. So again, leave a comment, let us know how you're doing. But thanks so much for watching today, guys. We hope you have a great day.
Guys, thanks so much for watching the tutorial today. I hope you really enjoyed it. Thanks for being a part of the Rooted Music community. Subscribe to this channel where you'll see so many more tutorials just like this. And maybe if you're watching and you feel like you just need a little bit more help, you need someone to come around you, coach you, help you learn to play these songs better, more effectively, more efficiently, we would love to help you. So click the link that's coming up here in just a second to learn more about how we can help.